Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at Maggio Lesson 4. Lesson 4 comes in after doing warm-up B. So we've gone through warm-up A and warm-up B previously. In the Maggio system, warm-up A relates to lessons 1, 3 and 5 and warm-up B relates to lessons 2 and 4. So the most of the preceding material is already up and this is the last of this first section. So, a little bit of chat first of all about lesson 4 before we get into the actual playing of it. The notes at the beginning of lesson 4, one of the things it refers to is to teaching aid 9. So, teaching aid 9 and lesson 4 is probably one of the most exciting ones that most trumpet players think about because it says extreme high register. Yay! So, I'll briefly run through what teaching aid 9 says and then we'll jump into lesson 4 of the Maggio technique. So, teaching aid 9, extreme high register. During this course, we will approach the high register with the following philosophy. Retain the pedal notes, embouchure throughout the high register. In the throat at all times. So this is a kind of part of the course for everything that we're doing. Pronounce syllable with the tongue in a hissing fashion. So this refers to the higher tongue position. So that's T-I-C-H, you see it written in the teaching aids. So in Scotland it's not T, it's, for us guys, it's tsh, but that's essentially what we're thinking about. And when you actually pronounce that symbol, your tongue kind of comes forward into this kind of arch position here, tsh, with the bottom of the tongue right down behind the teeth, and tsh. That's kind of what we're going for, so that is what we're using to hopefully compress this airstream as it passes through our oral cavity. Play smaller first and then let them grow, so this is all about not forcing the sound. If our top register, top range, highest notes that we can play are, maybe it may just be a C in the top of the stave, or maybe a G on the stave, depending on where we are in our playing ability. Not forcing them out and not chucking bucketfuls of air at it is the way to really help these higher notes grow. And I'll demonstrate that. Go as high as possible every day, pedal tones between each attempt. So this is what we're looking at in general anyway, through all of the Maggio register work, all the exercises. Once we leave this pedal register, so the F is our first pedal note when we descend, or when we're coming back up, it's the last pedal note. That's why we return to the pedal C motif, which is C, G, E, C, and then the 2 repeated pedal Cs. So that always brings us back to our pedal register. Look for a third before your very top note to eventually be your practical range. So in my case, let's see my very, very top note just now. Now a little squeak note we're talking about, the note I want to grow is about a B flat. Okay, maybe a B on really, really good days. So that means my general practical range, if I was on a gig, would be a top G. And that's usually more than we really, really need. Anyway, it's only when we get into a lot of the proper nails, big band stuff that we're up in that register consistently. And having to have that all night long is really what we're talking about. This is a register that comes slow for some and fast for others. And we'll just come back to that in a wee second. And it says, remember, if all of the principles of the Maggio system are correctly applied, the high notes will all come out. Now, just to tie that back to the previous one, this is a register that comes slow for some and fast for others. We have good days and bad days. We have good weeks, bad weeks. We have good months and bad months. We're physical human beings, bags of water and things made of metal, and we have cold, we're tired, and all that type of stuff. I think a general note about our practice and our playing is that we have to take the bad days with the good. All we can do is try to maintain a degree of consistency, I suppose, and that goes for everything across our trumpet playing, not just range, tonguing, slurring, interval work, tuning, stamina, musicality, all that type of thing. It all comes together. So here we go. We are going to get into Maggio Lesson 4. I've done my warm up B. I've not done much else today, so we'll see how it goes. And again, my room is freezing, so we'll see how it goes. Here we go. Maggio warm up. Maggio Lesson 4. Okay, Lesson 4. Extreme registers. Yay! So, preceding this with warm up B, I'm just reading a little spiel at the top of Lesson 4. Alternate the slur in the tongue from day to day. I've tried this, and I think in certain degrees the slur is a little bit harder to push through because we're not interrupting the airstream as much, particularly if we're still working on tonguing in these higher registers. The slur, well, it says that fact, the slur is usually the easy way to play the top notes and pedal register moving through. I'll probably tongue most today, but then we'll see how it turns out. 4. Make a constant effort to increase your range each day. We talked about this from teaching aid 9. And then don't be discouraged about small sound in the upper register at first. See Maggio quote. So that's the quote is, it's a baby but it'll grow. I think that's the Maggio quote. So here we go. We're going to go straight into some playing. This lesson ties over 2 octaves again. We've got groups of 3 ascending. It's a broken arpeggio basically. So once we go down to arpeggio C, we go up in an arpeggio basically over 2 octaves to our top C with a pause on the end. When we're tonguing this, we are tonguing the first of each of the group of 3 and obviously tonguing on the way down. So we'll do a couple of these. I'm going to do the full actual lesson myself. You don't have to go through the whole thing. We'll jump in and out at various relevant points. Okay, here we go. So, not plain sailing all the way there. Pedal C motif didn't want to come out, but you know, that's the way it is, that's the way it goes. So obviously we've ascended all the way up there into our F sharp, and we've gone through 2 syllable changes or tongue changes, if you want to call it that. When we start off the exercise, we really only go to our C with the position. I'm not saying wrong there. And then when we get to the C sharp and the D, we're in the A position, the T-A-Y-E. And then we have maintained that all the way up to where we are just now through the E position, which comes in around the E flat and E, and that's us in the F sharp now. So we've returned to the pedal C motif, and we're moving up into the E. And the next transition obviously is going to be up around the B flat B area, where we go into the tsh type area. Okay, so that's where we're going to go to now. Oh dear. Okay, so that's our top C there. Excuse me. And even there, I don't feel massively warmed up today. I had a little bit of a break between my warm up and doing lesson 4, so maybe a little bit of a longer break than I would normally have had. And again, the room's quite cold. I'm feeling that in my face. But even pushing up there to that top C, I think I heard it before. You know, it's like the upper register wasn't quite willing to just sit up there. So taking the time, making sure that the upper register is supported by our ear support and our tongue position is very, very important. So I wasn't pushing really hard to get that top C to come out. Very aware of that. Don't want to put any extra force on here than is ready to have. And sometimes, maybe even days like this, we'll see how it goes. There will be a limit to where it feels comfortable to play, and that's something that I really, really must stress, that if you're not warmed up enough, you know, you can cause a lot of injury very, very quickly, particularly if you are pushing your register and you're not warmed up. I've done it in gigs where recovery has meant not taking work, having to give work away because of damaged here. And that's very, very important in real world scenarios. You know, it's like blowing too hard, working too hard to try and get a sound to come out. You know, you really, really got to be careful with that. So we're starting to move up into the register now beyond our top C, and the Maggio system here changes ever so slightly. From doing the broken staggered arpeggio, we just now go straight into a 2-octave arpeggio, starting from our C sharp, and I think it changes around about the A flat. So let's just look ahead. Yes, it does. So we'll do a couple here, okay? I'll pause the video and we'll come back in somewhere around about an F sharp and we'll see how that's feeling. Okay, so here we go. So this is pedal C motif again, as normal, and 2 octaves from C sharp. Trying to support all the way up. The resistance of the trumpet, you know, it doesn't really change whatsoever. It doesn't change, it's a bit of metal. What we want to try and make sure is that the resistance that we are creating with our oral cavity and the support from here and obviously our diaphragm, etc., is in line with what we're pushing through the trumpet. So this is the balance, and this is where I think really paying attention to the sound that's coming out. And as Maggio says, the top notes will come. Everything proceeding all the way up there is really the range that we're looking at. The top notes, they're what we want to build. So they don't have to like really be singing and full and everything, as long as they're there and they're clean and they're controlled. So here we go. Let's talk and more play. Alright, so a relatively safe and clean 2 octave G arpeggio there. And at this stage in the study, I recommend you take a 5 minute break. So we're going to do that, and we'll come back in approximately 5 minutes, but hopefully there'll be a nice wee fade in and fade out, and you won't really notice it. So go and have a cup of tea, we'll see you soon. Alright, so we are now fully refreshed after a 5 minute break. We're moving into, I suppose, what I thought for long enough was the extreme high register. That was until I got fed up playing F's and G's. So we now move on to the upper register, above our top G, and basically we'll start off at A flat. But we only go down to the one arpeggio now. So we've actually only got A flat, A, B flat, B, and C, and that remains in lesson 4 before it goes on to lesson 5. So this takes us up to our double C. And after each one of these arpeggios, obviously we do our pedal motif. So this is pretty much it. We're going to try and go from A flat, and we'll see where we get to. I've been getting better on my B flats and B flats. The C's, sometimes they kind of like don't happen, sometimes they do happen. We'll see what happens anyway. So this is it, we'll take it to the end. Okay? And here we go. Or you may notice as well that I am taking these a lot slower. I've mentioned in previous videos about really taking my time to make sure, and I think focus on my tongue position and that my support is in place. I'm trying to always think about not holding the trumpet too tight so that the embouchure, the air and everything can do as much as it can, as efficiently as possible. Let's start that one again. Ba. I think we're just about to top out. I think that may have been us just topping out there. Yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to force it. Right. So when it feels like I noticed in the B that it just kind of wasn't there, maybe revisit a couple of times, take a break and come back. But for me, that's been on that the B flat sounded alright, and I'm not going to worry about that not being there. Like I said, my G's, G sharps, A's, they're relatively solid. even in this time of hardly doing any gigging whatsoever, they're there. I can call upon them, and I think the difference is how long can I play them for in terms of not really doing lots and lots of work just now. If I do, or when we get back to regular gigging, then the sheer fact that we're doing that type of thing a lot more often probably actually means one, you don't have to practice it as much because you're doing it on the gig. So Maggio talks about playing through the full register of our instrument or our own register as much as possible, and I totally agree with that. But in terms of practicing and practicing, playing lots and lots of high notes in your practice, you're going to miss out on so much more. You're going to miss out on the fundamentals of our sound, our basic technique, tonguing, lip flexibilities, slurring, playing melodies, etc. If you touch the highest parts of your range maybe once a day, maybe twice a day, um, and one of those might be a gig, then that should be enough. So that's pretty much it for lesson 4. Lesson 5 is still to come along, and after I personally spent a lot of time on warm up A and B, lessons 1 through 5. Warm up C and D are next in the series, I suppose. I've spent a lot of time with them. Really, really good things happening there. Really different aspects of playing, so there's a lot more in the terms of flexibilities and tonguing work as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Like I've said, or started to say in my videos, I now have a PayPal Me link attached to the welcome page of the YouTube channel, and it's in almost all of the lesson descriptions or video descriptions now. The content will always remain free. The PayPal Me is there just to help me keep the studio going, update equipment, etc., pay for electricity to run this place, all that type of thing. Please don't contribute if you can. I mean, if you feel generous enough, then it's humbly appreciated, and I shall contact you personally and say thank you as well. And that's pretty much it. So, any comments, as always, greatly appreciated. Positive, negative, as long as it's constructive, I don't really mind, and just keep it clean, because again, a lot of my students watch this stuff as well. Anything that you want me to cover, try to cover. I haven't done a lot of playing in terms of improvising, as one of my weaker points, so I'm working on that all the time. Still trying to think about a way to share that type of content in such a way that it sounds constructive and not just me messing up a bunch of standards. So really that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you again soon. Thanks now. Bye. Let's start that one again.